How does Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, come up with and deliver into the world ideas that literally change the direction of humankind? In a very brief moment on David Perell's show, How I Write, Sam Altman gives us the simplest of secrets: a pocket notebook, a pen, and a process. So let's take a quick look.
I'm a big believer of I take a bunch of notes and then I clearly rip them out so I can look at multiple pages at the same time, and I can crumple them up and throw them on the floor and I'm done.
In this video, I'm going to go a little deeper in fleshing out this system and show how I have personally incorporated it into my everyday entrepreneurial process. So let's take a deeper look. Let's start with the notebook. So in Sam Altman's video, he shows a notebook that kind of looks like this one. Actually, I think it's the exact one. I did a little bit of research. It's a Twone. I'm going to probably say that wrong. Twone, A6 size, and it's craft-bound spiral notebook. And that, as you saw in the video, is important to him. And there's a few things that are specifically integral to at least the way he's kind of vetted out the system. One, it lies flat. So when he's using it on the desk, he can lie it down flat, and you can see I've got a comparable. I love field notes. I use them all the time, but sometimes as you're kind of scratching in them, the fact that it sort of bends up is maybe not ideal. So it lays flat, so it has really nice paper. It's reasonably thick. It can hold all kinds of different inks, including fountain pens, so you can sketch and you can use pretty much anything that you need. And then the other thing that's really nice about this is you can easily rip out the pages, and we'll kind of talk about processing our notes a little bit later. So this is the one that obviously he used in his video, but of course there are some alternatives. So in my process, I've tested a few different things. My kind of tried and true has been the Lochby Pocket Journal. I like it for a couple different reasons, but kind of the main ones, it does have some pockets where you can store some different things in it. And so it can be a complete system versus sort of this that is a little bit of kind of the streamlined minimalist version. You could stick in your field notes here. Again, big fan of field notes. I use them all the time. I'm on the subscription program, so I love the creativity of it, the inspiration when I get a new pack. Also inside of here, obviously you can, I'm a glasses wearer, as you can see, so I can pull in the lens wipes. Kind of nice to have. Little boo-boos. This is a big fan of kind of having some sticky notes here at my disposal, which again, I can kind of tuck in there. So I get a complete system inside of here. It's nice that it zippers up, so if I have a couple of loose items, I don't have to worry about losing them. So that's an alternative. You can see size-wise, it's going to take up essentially the same space. Probably better to fit in a bag versus, say, a pocket, which this one will do very well. However, one of the things that I've been testing is a slightly different version of this, and they call it the Sidekick. So this is intentionally designed to, and I think it's Max Level EDC collabed on this with Lochby. So there was some intentionality to make this a little bit more EDC friendly and something that you could stick in your pocket for sure. And that's the way I've been using it. I've essentially used this to replace my wallet, which is nice because I traditionally use this on the back of my iPhone. So this still I use because I invariably will forget this. I haven't actually forgotten the Sidekick, but when I was carrying a wallet, I would forget it, but I would always have my phone. So this is still a part of that carry. It has the essential elements of ID and a single, actually 2 credit cards. But this gives me a little more expansion, allows me to hold my business cards. I can still carry and some other things. I kind of like this because I think this is the genius of it. The pen sort of configuration is nice, holds all kinds of different pens, kind of surprisingly so. Obviously the thin ones, but if you want to do something like a preppy and do a fountain pen, that works perfectly as well. So a lot of different options here. I think it'll even do a G2, which is my favorite. Yeah, no problem there, unlike a pen loop that kind of snags on this plasticky part. So a lot of flexibility here. This, of course, does not hold ideally. It'd be nice if it held a full-size field notes, but you're kind of pressing the form factor at that point. So they've essentially made it friendly for, I'll probably get this wrong, A7. And so I grabbed a couple of these, and my first thought was to kind of set it up like this, which I saw a few people do. This is sort of a useless pocket. That's obviously, maybe for an AirTag or something like that. So it was well thought out. Man, I wish it was just a tiny bit taller here so I could stick it in here and still preserve this pocket for index cards and stuff like that, which will fit in here. So you kind of have to do this. But then I saw somebody that kind of did this clever idea. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Just holds it a little bit tighter and nicer in there. And then when I did this, because I'm not a huge fan of these notebooks because they're only unlined and I kind of like a different form factor in the papers, But then I found out my favorite little to-do list holders fit in here perfectly. So this is what I've converted to, just kind of sticking that in there. And then that becomes the full setup for this Sidekick. So again, alternatives to the notebook approach here with this Sidekick. So I think this Sidekick might actually end up replacing my journal, or this goes in my bag, this goes in my pocket. You can kind of never have too many of those. The other thing, just kind of a little thing that I was doing before I kind of fully switched to this configuration, this kind of works nice because you always kind of want to know like where you are in your notebook. So I noticed this little trick and started using this. This is actually not the pen I was using, but you could do it with that as well. But this one works perfect, this little Uni 1. It's got that little wire thing, and you can just literally close that and you're ready to open and go. So anyway, a little bit of a hack there. So not to get too deep in the notebook because I want to go through the full system. So these are kind of alternatives. As we move to kind of the next step, we've got the actual pen. And so it's nice to have the spiral. It's kind of an extra piece of this because you have kind of a built-in pen holder. He uses a micro version of this, so you can do kind of the micro version if you want to. That's what he likes. That's kind of too, I kind of like the 0.5. I don't really like to go too narrow, but you can see a lot of options here as well. This is generally what's in there. It slides in there really nice. The other kind of favorite pen, which you couldn't really do, is my Lectrum. So unfortunately that does not work in this configuration. So another reason that I kind of prefer something like the Sidekick. But they're, again, pen wise for this, when I have been carrying it, these are generally the two pens. The Muji and the Uni 1 are the two that I prefer to use there. I am a big fan of kind of the clicker, and even this Lectrum, it has kind of a turn style approach to this, so I don't have to keep up with caps and stuff like that. So this is my preference. G2 is always a fan favorite. This one I actually swapped out. Now this is inside of here is the Parker G2. It's got a nice gel. I'm a big fan of the gel. So this has kind of been my guilty pleasure recently. It's nice, it's heavy, feels substantial, it's weighty, it's sturdy, it's got the twist cap, and it fits everywhere, every pen loop and that sort of thing. So big fan of that. It's got the narrow sort of stick barrel, and again, tucks in pretty much anywhere you would want to put it. So that's my kind of favorite on the pen. But again, going and sticking very closely to Sam's approach, I think this Uni 1 in here or the Muji is probably your best option. Okay, so let's then go to the next component. So another thing that he mentions is just the list. And once you've got all your tools, you need to kind of have a process for turning ideas into action. And Sam mentions lists specifically. I'm a big fan of lists. It really is kind of the simplest, tightest way to process information, right? You can have to-do lists, checklists. I'm a bigger fan of that than even standard operating procedures that have, kind of a lot of words to them and can get sort of flowery and fluffy. Just straight checklists. Do this, do this, do this. I'm a pilot, and I've flown, and checklist, that has made me a believer. You're just like, even if you know things inside and out, which we do when we're flying, we've done these things a million times, checklist make sure nothing is forgotten, nothing is missed, and it's just kind of a critical form for, again, processing and make sure that you're executing consistently and in a disciplined way. Other things that work well in list is obviously taking big projects and dreams and reducing them down to lists. Of course, outlines for articles and videos and talks. And the simple list is just the very best way to capture an idea. They're easier to reorganize, reduce, expand, and lists, quite frankly, are just the best scaffolding to take big ideas and projects and turn them into reality. So Sam talks about that. He's just constantly making lists, rewriting lists. I think that's a big part of it too. We're going to talk in a second about weekly reviews. Just the act of writing a list and rewriting it, particularly my to-do list. I do this is write my list for the day. I'll kind of process through it. Invariably, I won't get it all done. And I don't necessarily carry forward. I'll just go to the next page on the next day or the night before, and I'll rewrite what are the most important things to do, because oftentimes as you process through that, priorities have changed even in the span of 24, 48 hours. So it's nice to go through your list and rewrite and reorganize those as well. Okay, the next step, and he kind of talks about this a little bit, but I like to kind of flush this out, is the weekly review. At this point, it's time to sort of process everything that you've put in here, and I'm going to kind of take you through what that looks like. And you can see over time, this notebook will go from thick to thin, right, as we process through here. And this is, I think, one of the genius parts of this system, is that we're actually removing and processing the items. Too often, when I have something like a field notes that doesn't, sort of, the pages don't tear out as well, I may neglect to process the items out of here. They're kind of in here and maybe a little bit lost. But I like this system. This field notes actually has, you can see, perforated pages. And so I like the ability, or kind of almost the permission or the form factor that encourages tearing out and processing each of these. So what do I do with that? So my next step is to go through these pages, and you can see I've got all kinds of different things here. So I've got video ideas, I've got notes from some podcasts, some kind of general notes. I think these are some book idea or some books, and some authors, a concept that I want to kind of look into, an audio book. So there's kind of a book. So I'm just literally going through here and sort of processing this notebook. So you can see I'm sort of sorting and stacking, right? And a lot of these are YouTube ideas, but they could be other things beyond just YouTube ideas. I could write an article about this concept, but it sort of goes into the content creation stack. Book recommendations. This is actually a process. That's a video that I did. Commonplace notebook. This is somebody that I kind of like to listen to. So again, you can kind of get the idea. I'm just literally going through here and processing through these different ideas. And again, as we move through this, we're going to process this whole notebook. So now what do we do next? So next thing, let's go to the second step of this processing, and we're going to actually put it into Notion. So let's take a look and transition to my desktop. Okay, we've taken all of our notes. We've started to sort of sort and stack them, process them. This is what I like to do on a weekly basis. And now it's time to go into Notion and actually get to the execution part of this process, whereby we're going to make sure that we have these that are filed away in a workflow that will actually assist us in turning these notes into something productive, effective, valuable, ultimately, right? So inside of here, you can take a look. I'm in my Notion, and there's really only a few places that these notes will go, right? It could be an idea for a project that I'm kicking off, and then I would go into my project database. I would create a project, create some subtasks. Sometimes you just need a task, right? And so if it's just a task that needs to be done, then I'll put it in here. If it's something that I can kind of knock off real quick, then I'll go ahead and knock it off. But if it's something that's either needs to be done in the future or takes just a little bit of extra effort to, I'll put it in here. If it's simply an idea, I will put it into my Spark file so that it's there for perpetuity in a place that I can kind of go through, scan through from time to time when I'm trying to think of new content ideas, or maybe I'm stuck or I need some inspiration. Or one of the really nice things in here is I can use Notion AI to give me some sources and some ideas. So for instance, I want to write a new article and record a video on how to do modern cold outreach. So in the past, I would just kind of look through this Spark file and I would just sort of scan through it and look for ideas. Now, increasingly, I'm going to AI and I'm saying, hey, you do the scan. I know I have this idea. I'm pretty sure I have some content around this or some previous work that I've done. You go and give me an idea of what's there. And so I'll start with AI. And sometimes I'll go to ChatGPT because quite honestly, it does it better. But kind of that initial sort of ideation or thinking or seeing if I have enough material to do something, I'll do right here in Notion because, again, all of my notes, all of my ideas get processed into Notion so that I have a robust database that represents me and the knowledge base, essentially that I've created in my second brain here. And so I will have some base, or the notes and the information that's in here is shaped around sort of my approach, my philosophy, my experience. And so it's really nice to start here with AI to get, some structure for how I would probably approach this, because this is the information that I've collected over time. You can see here, it gets pretty robust, right? LinkedIn first approach, yes. And again, this is what I love about AI, right? One of the things that I have been emphasizing just in this topic is, instead of kind of the traditional cold email, going to Apollo, grabbing some emails out and just hitting them with cold email sequences, I advocate a LinkedIn first approach. And that's been captured over and over again in here. And so it already knows how I would answer this question or what my experience has created, because again, I've taken my note-taking system, my ideation system, just processing things that I've read and put it in here, and there's essentially a step-by-step mechanism for this topic. So it really makes content creation or deliverable creation. So let's just say I'm doing a strategy around this, right? So I'm a B2B marketing agency I own. And so this is a great way to start a strategy. I just say, hey, here's the problem. Here's what this particular, prospective client is running into. Can you help me to create a strategy? And that strategy gets built out of everything that I can provide to them, because it's based, again, on my database of knowledge and resources and the people that I have access to and the talent that I can, as an agency, I can bring to bear on that. So again, all of this kind of works together. Didn't mean to get sidetracked on that, but I think that's really valuable on how you use these systems and why it's important to get this out of your notebook and into a system that can help you, based on your workflow, create something of value. So let's go through and just look at a couple of these. So most of these are video ideas. That's a lot of what I capture, because a lot of what I'm doing anymore is video content and strategy being delivered out via video or articles and that sort of thing, trying to give strategic value to prospective clients and to just generally my audience. And so let's just take this one, commonplace notebook. I'm going to go to my content system, because this is potentially a video idea, and I just simply pop it open. Commonplace notebook. Not going to worry about recording and publishing because it's just an idea. Talk about the actual category. I have a few set categories because, again, most of this content is either articles or videos, and one of the ways that I try to stay focused is I have a limited number of categories that at this point I'm willing to cover and work on and produce content around. So this helps keep me focused by having a limited number of categories that's outside of this category. Then I will process it back over to the Spark file, right? Because it's not something that I'm working on actively producing content in that category. But this fits nicely into productivity and probably strategy as well. So go back over here. Now, if I have some more information, which I do, I'm going to pop this open. And this is what I really love about, we're not going to save that. Let's just kind of get rid of it for the moment. Whoops. Oh, well, I did save it. Okay. Okay. So now content type, I'm going to do a YouTube video here. Client. Again, this system allows me to produce content across all different clients. In this case, I'm just doing it for my consulting group. And I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to drop these extra little information here. So, and you can see some of this is actually processed out here. This is my commonplace book, the head word. Is something that I do. You can see on most of my notes so that it gives us context. All right, and so that one's processed. I can completely discard that, right? I'm like Sam Altman, got a lot of heat in his video. You may or may not have seen it in our clip, but he tends to toss them on the floor, apparently, or doesn't always hit his trash can. So I like to toss them into the trash can. This is important too, because I think for some of us who kind of again, open loops, and there's a word for it, I can't remember it offhand, but open loops, for some of us, really kind of make us less productive, right? And so I'm in that category. So by processing these and discarding them, I kind of signal to my brain that it's in here, it's available, and I can work on it in the future. So the loop is essentially closed until I reopen it. So this is another reason that this is so powerful to do. So I'm literally just going to kind of go down through here, and I'm going to process these different items. So this is a book note, Die With Zero. I just read this. So this is interesting. So I've got a little bit of a preparation process that I go through when I'm reading a book to prep me. And this is a process that goes through ChatGPT. And again, just give me an overall sense of the book so that when I go into it, I can be super productive and I can move through it quickly, and I can go deep where I want to go deep because I already kind of know the areas that I want to dive into by using this preparation process via ChatGPT. And then from here, I can add additional notes. In this particular case, it was a recommendation, and I've already subsequently read that book. So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll process the notes that I put in here, and actually pretty significant. There's one whole chapter that like Ryan Holiday said this, I like to sort of debate the books, and you can see sometimes I get pretty intricate with my debate. And there's one whole chapter in here. I don't know if I can find it. Yeah, sometimes I'll go back to the heading of the chapter and I'll sort of debate the author in some ways. And there's one chapter in here, and this will be interesting when I review the book. Yeah, this is the one. Basically, I said I would have rewritten this chapter, right, and taken a different approach. And again, doesn't mean mine is more of a truth than Bill Perkins and kind of what he has recommended here, but my experience is different. And so I think when I review a book, if I do have something that I would debate with, I think there's some value in kind of bringing that up. So anyway, you can see that this weekly review process is fairly in depth. I'm thinking about each note. I'm thinking of what I'm doing with it. I put it somewhere so that it will be processed, so that it does go into a workflow, and then ultimately becomes something valuable. It becomes a deliverable to a client, becomes an article that I write. I'm working on a couple books. Maybe it'll go into a book. certainly comes out a lot of times in video content like you're enjoying here, hopefully. So as you're doing note-taking, as you're kind of seeing some of my different videos on notebooks and pens, take it just a little bit beyond sort of the fun of all the nuances and systems and things you can do with them, and really think about, how do I get these ideas and these tools to turn into something that becomes a valuable piece of content, a product, a book, some sort of valuable deliverable that you're introducing into the world, and it will make this process feel so much more rewarding, and then of course just benefit your audience, your clients, your employers so much more, instead of just sort of hiding and tucking away these ideas in little notebooks, filing them on your shelf, your bookshelf, and then waiting for your grandkids to discover them when you pass away. So there's so much more that can be done. So I really encourage you. That's really kind of the core of this. Yes, it's a system that's inspired by Sam Altman, but really think through how to take that process all the way to its logical, valuable conclusion. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've been here up until this point, I would love for you to do a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.